Hey, it's Juck, and welcome to Juck on College Football. I went through all the contenders, and I have narrowed it down to 12 teams that I think are going to make the college football playoff. I would encourage you to do this as a college football fan, especially if you're someone like me who doesn't like the 12-team playoff and thinks that anybody who's anybody is going to make it into this thing. Kind of opened my eyes that no, anybody who's anybody is not going to make this thing. And while I'm still anti the playoff, and I would like to go back to the BCS if I had my druthers, I know you disagree. We'll argue about that some other time. I talk about that plenty. But for today, we're just going to go through 12, my number one team, not number one as in like number one, but my first team on the list of the 12 college football playoff teams. And listen, this team has been making some serious moves, led by a guy that not everybody trusts, and I certainly understand why. I kind of feel the same way, and I'm very surprised that they're on here, to be honest, but I can't deny it. I honestly hate that I can't deny it, but the truth is, call me crazy, I think Mario Cristobal and his Miami Hurricanes are going to make the playoffs, and they are my first team. Not my first as in number one, but they're my first team that we're going to talk about that's going to make the playoffs. Mario and his Canes are making the playoffs. Now, Miami is a problem. They really are. Vegas has their win total at 9.5. They are even money to make the playoffs. So this is not some far-fetched in the gambling world that they're going to make the playoffs. And winning 10 games, is that going to get you in the ACC? It will in the Big Ten and the SEC most likely, right? We can assume that from here on forever, I'm assuming. But probably not in the ACC. And their schedule isn't really set up to get them any big wins. We'll go over that schedule in a few. So they're not going to get any big wins to get boosted for, where a 10-2 season might get them in. So they might have to win 11 games. But the schedule's set up that they could do that. I think that they're going to be favored in all but the Florida State game. We'll go over it. And we know that they were 7-5 last year, but they were really 8-4, right? We know that Mario committed one of the biggest blunders we've ever seen at the end of a game, and many think that he's an idiot for that. I don't think he's an idiot at all. I think he's a really smart guy. In fact, I just think he's one of these, old school football guys, and he's got his quirks, and we just saw a guy win the national championship that has a lot of quirks. One of Mario's quirks is he finds it weak to take a knee. He thinks it's a sign of weakness. And is he an idiot for holding on to that mentality? At this point, moving forward, yes, I'll call him an idiot at that point. But I don't think that was, born out of stupidity. It was a conscious decision. He knew he was making it, and now he knows that it can jump up and bite him in the ass. Not once, but twice. I don't think he's ever going to do it again because sometimes shame can really make you have a little self-reflection. So I think he's learned his lesson, and that'll be it for Mario in the kneeling situation. But he's always shown us throughout his career that he's good at putting together an organization. And what he's done at Miami, honestly, has been pretty masterful to me. It really has. And as much as they say, when he was heading to Miami, he was an awesome recruiter and he would be an even better recruiter down there. I didn't believe he could do it like this. But, buddy, he's getting it done. And their supporters are getting it done. And they're yanking the players from the biggest of the big. They have successfully pissed off Ohio State fans in back-to-back years, ripping guys right at the end. This season was Justin Scott, massive defensive tackle out of Chicago, Ohio State territory, and he's got two top 10 classes back-to-back, but the 24 class is fantastic. And it's not just fantastic, it's fantastic in the right places. He got bigs, and he got good bigs. Offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson enters his second year. He improved the offense quite a bit from his first year. Unfortunately, their quarterbacks combined for 14 picks, and they lost 8 fumbles, and still, Dawson was able to noticeably improve that offense. But the quarterback play wasn't good enough, so Mario addressed it. And for my money, he addressed it in a very big way, and now he's got Cam Ward running that offense. And I know, all right, so he yanks Cam Ward out of the draft. Cam Ward entering the draft was one of the weirder things that happened in the offseason because that dude, I don't know what he was thinking or if it was some kind of tactic. Maybe it worked for him because he was in the transfer portal forever. I think he was one of the first quarterbacks to enter that portal, and then he just sat there forever. And then he goes to the draft at the very end. Mario pulls him back out, undoubtedly, he got a good payday. Good for Cam. That's the way this world works now. Whatever, no problem. But I really think that Cam Ward at Miami is going to be a problem. And we talked about the turnovers and the fumbles that they had at Miami last year and the issues. And we know that Cam has a lot of ball security issues as well. And I think that Cam has probably never heard more about his ball security issues than he did for that however long he was sitting in the portal. And like Mario and his browbeating he got for his dumb move, I think that this is an easy fix for Cam. I really do. I think when you're that level of athlete, if all you got to do is hang on to the goddamn ball, do not fumble the ball, Cam. Tuck the ball. I think he's going to get it. Call me crazy. I think it's an easy fix. And I think he's a baller. And I think he's a baller that really fits Miami. And, you know, there's certain guys that just fit certain places. Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver for Miami. We'll talk about him in a minute. He's just a Cane through and through. I think Cam Ward is going to be a Cane through and through. And I think that in his one season at Miami, Cane fans are going to love him. And his highlight reel from Washington State is a fun way to spend 10 minutes. So talk about missing on a prospect. Seriously, like how does that dude end up I think he transferred to Washington State from a smaller school, which really blows my mind because that guy is a legit talent and he's Miami's now. He's fast, he's flashy, he got paid, he's enjoying himself. He's hosting Super Bowl parties for his skill guys. He's taking the hogs out to fancy dinners. He's clearly a smart guy. And he went down there to make himself some more money for next year. And I think he is going to accomplish that mission. And he's got himself some weapons to work with. But let's start up front. They lost a few pieces to the draft. They brought in Indiana center Zach Carpenter and one of the best linemen in the transfer portal. And I think that their really good offensive line last year will take a slight step back. But I still think that they're going to be a top 25, 20 line in the country. Mark Fletcher, junior running back, one of the guys they yanked from Ohio State as a freshman last year, was an absolute unit. One of the other guys that they flipped, along with Jordan Lyle, freshman running back, coming in this year. And they're really starting their guys young, and I like that. I like that Mario is not afraid to do that, not afraid to let him make mistakes. And Mark Fletcher proved him right because Mark Fletcher was excellent last year as a freshman. Now, he's had a surgery. He might or might not be back for game one, but they got Henry Parrish Jr., veteran running back, to kind of spell that until Fletcher gets back, and there'll be a running back by committee anyway. Fletcher should be back by game 3 if he's not back by game 1. They got a talented wide receiver room featuring Restrepo, as we talked about. Absolute dog, total Cane, love the dude. Jacoby George is their other stud wide receiver, and Horton. I don't know this Horton fella, but they say he's good down in Miami. And they also got an awesome freshman who I really liked coming out of high school, JoJo something or other. This kid is legit, and I've seen some of his highlights from spring ball so far. He's legit. And like we say, hey, Mario plays the young dudes. I would love to see this JoJo cat in there some more. Tight end Elijah Arroyo was on the Mackey Award list last year, got hurt. This is his year. He's got all the physical tools you could ever want, and I think that he is going to make an impact on them. He could catch up to 25, 30 balls, and this guy is a yak machine. Defensive coordinator Lance Guidry, he is a riser in the profession. We've been hearing about him for years, everywhere he's gone. You know, he's just one of those dudes that you just feel like he's going up and up and up. In his first year, he took the defense from 65th to 24th. So here we go with this guy. You got an offensive coordinator, you got a defensive coordinator, both solid, make improvements year 1. Now here they go, year 2. They got my favorite overall player in the portal on that defense, and that's Marley Cook from Middle Tennessee, defensive tackle. And I love these dudes from small schools that just bust their hump, and then they get the call up. They seem to be so hungry when they get there, and Marley Cook sure was, because he walked into Miami and immediately started setting records in the weight room. He looks like an immovable object, really low center of gravity. He knows how to use that leverage, and he looks like he's 30, which is always scary. So that helps. Returning on the edge, freshman All-American Ruben Bain. Absolute stud. He's only going to get better from his 7.5 sacks last year. And on the other side, they brought in PFF's top-ranked edge rusher, transfer from Marshall, Elijah Alston. The roster's absolutely sick. everywhere you look, the roster is sick. And the defensive backfield may be the biggest question mark, but they brought in a nice portal player from Washington. They got some awesome young talent. They got young, talented dudes. Several of them are going to play on Sunday. We'll see what they can do this year. It's probably the biggest question mark. But, yeah, talented young dudes everywhere. Not afraid to play their young dudes. Honestly, it's even tough to say when you talk about who's going to play where when you're talking about Miami because they have so much young talent, and they're not afraid to play it. So who's going to win those roles? We don't know. Hey, we just started spring ball. But the thing is, man, there's talent everywhere. There really is. They're starting to look like an old school, scary Canes operation. And, you know, Mario gets 4 or 5 cycles deep into this. Who knows where it's going to go? But for right now, I think they're a playoff team in the ACC. And let's go over the schedule. This is generally the part where I would say, like, all right, let's go over the away games first. But with Miami, it's a little different because they don't really have a home field advantage. And so I don't think it matters. You know, like we're not saying that the away games are going to be tougher. I don't really think so because they have no home field advantage. They had Louisville in last year. They were, I don't know, top 15 team. There looked to be about 15,000 people in the stands. And I remember that picture floating around the internet. And the Miami fans were getting salty and saying that was pregame. It was not. I'll put it up. But yeah, man, I don't understand these guys. They are some of the loudest fans on the internet. And for some of the loudest fans on the internet, you would imagine that they would be loud on game day. And you see that, and it looks like a MAC team is playing a bowl game there. I mean, like, it is just pathetic. I don't understand. I wish one of you could explain it to me. One of you Miami, explain to me why nobody goes to your games. And I don't want to hear it's 40 minutes away from Coral Gables, okay? Because I know I've been to that stadium, and matter of fact, I went to a national championship at that stadium. I loved the stadium. I thought it was a fun stadium. But anyway, beside the point, let's get back to Mario Cristobal. So, does Mario got it in him to win the ACC? He's got the roster to do it. For my money, it's the most talented roster in the ACC. I certainly think it's the most exciting roster in the ACC. He's got the supporting crew around him. Can he get it done? I think it's going to come down to, look, he's got everything he needs. We haven't seen a Miami coach get this kind of support both externally and the quality coach around him in a long, long time. And we're talking NIL. Listen, a lot of people are dogging Miami, dogging Mario, other college football fans, saying they're just going and buying this and buying that, particularly Ohio State fans who are very bitter about those late flips. And Ohio State is a massive fan base, and they're loud too. And it's really, it's not a knock to me to say that Mario Cristobal went and got these guys and used money to do it. Because I now think that part of your job as a head coach and part of the way we should be grading you as a head coach is how good you can get your NIL running. Because a good NIL represents a healthy program to me. And we see plenty of coaches saying, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm out. I'm not a fundraiser. This is not what I'm about. I want to coach football. And we've seen some others embrace it. And they embrace it and say, this is another avenue that I can potentially beat my opponents in. And Mario has embraced it. And he talks about it. And you know what? I respect it. It doesn't need to be this, seedy thing anymore. And it's not. So Mario has embraced it. He's not afraid to say I'm embracing it. And because he's embraced it, and because of the classes he's bringing in, he's creating more excitement, which is making it even better. The success is begetting success. Success is begetting success. And, hey, Lane Kiffin's embraced it too. Ryan Day's even embraced it now. And those coaches that embrace it are going to continue to be the most successful in recruiting and in the portal. So I say kudos to Mario for that. And because he's built an unbelievable young roster and attracted a ton of great portal players, he's going to continue to land great recruiting classes as long as he's there. So, do you believe in him? Can Mario Cristobal and the Canes handle their business? Because if he does, the Canes will be in the playoffs. Like I said, they're going to be favored in almost every game this year. And, hey, I believe in him. Another top 10 list came out the other day, another one with the most hated teams. And the Canes are always right up there at 1, 2, or 3. Now, the interesting thing about the Canes is they're not hated because of their team anymore. Guys my age and older remember those teams that were hated. The Canes aren't hated because of their teams anymore. They're not hated because of the football program. They're hated because of the fans. And they're the only team on one of those lists, those top 10 lists when you talk about hated teams, that are hated specifically because of the fans. Now, all those other teams have actual football teams that you hate too, and the fans. The Canes, it's simply the fans and only the fans. Now, I think that they are finally going to get a team looking like a nasty, old school, flashy, in-your-face Canes team that is going to match with their obnoxious fan base for the rest of us to hate. So congratulations, Canes fans. I certainly didn't want you to have any joy, but I think you're going to get it, and I think Mario has really done what he needs to do to make this a playoff team going into the season, and now all he needs to do is execute and handle his business, and I think he will. And I think Miami is a playoff team. Join me soon, and we will hit 11 more. But for now, the Canes are our first team in the playoffs. Chuck on College Football out.